Hello, welcome back to the channel. I'm Sean, or Barely, or whatever they bloody want to call me. You know, probably been called worse. Today we've got another faction focus, and this time it's the Ogres. They are pretty straightforward and pretty damn powerful. So, the same as all the other videos, this isn't going to be anything massively in-depth. I can probably cover that in another video at some point if people are interested. As always, if you have any recommendations or any questions, do feel free to leave a comment and I will answer them all as much as I possibly can. And let's crack on. So, the legendary lords of the Ogres. First up, you have Greaser Skulltooth, the really disfigured and horrible version of Santa that you really never want to come across in a dark alley. Not that I think he'd fit down the alley, but hey. His faction effects are diplomatic relations plus 20 with Ogre Kingdoms, income from trade plus 25%, unit mass of increased 25%, Lord effects, income from raiding plus 50%, upkeep for Iron Guts units minus 50%, income from sacking and looting settlements plus 50%. Now the next chap is Scrag the Slaughterer. You know, you wouldn't really want to invite him over for dinner, would you? Look at him. Look at those teeth. Jeez. Now, faction effects are campaign movement plus 10% for all characters, hero capacity plus 1 for butchers, hero recruit rank plus 2 for butchers. Lord effects are casualty replenishment rate plus 8% for Gorger units in his army, upkeep minus 50% for Gorger units in his army. So, let's have a look at their stats. So first of all, we have Greaser Skulltooth. His skills and stats. Well, he has ridiculously high weapon strength, he has good melee attack, and, you know, leadership's decent. Everything else is as you would expect for a giant lumbering ogre. He has the activatable ability of Everyone Has Their Price, which is a hex, and it decreases the enemy's leadership by 8 and melee attack by 24. He also comes with the passive ability of Wall Breaker, which gives them the ability to attack walls in melee and destroy them because, you know, they're literally hulking units that will absolutely rip everything to shreds. And that's pretty much it. They are a very basic set of units, the Ogres. Like, overall, there's nothing too complicated about them. Now, skills, red and blue line, as with everyone else, absolutely what you would expect. And then you have his abilities, which are pretty much just about making him more tanky and more vicious with his attacks. And it does get absolutely ridiculous. The amount of hit points he gets, the amount of armor he gets, and weapon strength he gets is huge. And he also, which is something that will be important in another part of the video, comes with an ability called the Best Camping, which gives them an extra camp limit, which is really, really useful. Again, we'll cover exactly why later on. So now on to Scrag the Slaughterer, his stats and skills. I really hope his gyrating and nipples aren't going to get me in trouble. Please don't ban this video. So overall, he's not as an impressive lord as Greasus is, because, you know, he's not got a giant wheelbarrow and is pulling around a hulking pot behind him. However, he does have more abilities in the terms of spells, because butchers are pretty much your spellcasters. You have Brain Gobbler, which decreases enemy leadership by 16, and also Bull Gorger, which gives armor weapon piercing damage plus 25% and melee attack plus 25%. Everything else is exactly the same as it is with Greasus, so there's no changes there. His skills, being a spellcaster, obviously he gets the Law of the Maw, I believe that's called. I could well be wrong. Now, this gives you some rather interesting things. It gives you some decent damage. It also gives you replenishment to your troops. It also gives you the rather nice, powerful thing known as the Maw. You know, it's a really good, damn nice spell to use on enemies. I love using it. Everything else is pretty much just about him buffing his troops. He has got a little bit of a favoritism towards the Gorger units, so you'll find plenty of buffs for them in there. So as I mentioned, Ogres have the ability to set up camps in enemy or in friendly territory. Now this gives you the ability to recruit troops whilst moving towards your enemy, but also construct various different buildings which can give a plethora of different buffs within its circle of influence. An example of this is the feast table that I've got constructed at the moment. Now, this will give all armies within the circle of influence a meat generation of 5, which is, pretty handy. We'll cover meat in a moment. Now, the circle of influence itself covers roughly a province, depending on the positioning of the province, but you can see it's a pretty damn big circle. Now, the buildings that you can get to buff up cover a huge amount of things, where it can be melee attack, melee defense, replenishment. It can be the amount of loot that you get after battle, the amount of meat that you generate after battle, all kinds of things. So you can really beef up your attack power when near a camp. Now, something to keep in mind is that your camps are going to be your capital buildings. These go up to tier 5. Now, all other settlements that you take will be reduced to being a minor settlement. Even if it was, let's say, Marienburg, it would still be a tier 3 settlement. They're basically treated like a horde faction, kind of semi-horde faction, if you will. So your buildings are not restricted in your camps. You can pretty much just fill them out as you want. You don't have to keep upgrading the actual tier level of the settlement, just like a standard horde. Although each base level building does cost population to stop you from absolutely cramming it out instantly and just overpowering everything even more than you already will. Okay, so meat, glorious meat. I've mentioned it a few times, and this is one of the most important currencies for the ogres. Now, much like any living creature in the game, you kind of need to keep your armies fed, although they don't really show it. This was a thing with the Skaven, with the whole food thing, you kind of had to keep on top of it, and now the ogres have it as well. Makes sense with the unsatiable hunger that they suffer from. If it drops too low, you'll end up starting to take attrition and you'll lose armies, and it's just generally not going to be a nice time. You can generate meat through winning battles, through raising settlements, and through various buildings throughout your empire. It's a really easy thing to get on top of, so you're generally never really going to be panicking about it too much from my experience, but there is one other neat little thing about it. You can use it to make a sacrifice to the Great Maw. Now, this will give you various buffs for the duration of 10 turns, and, well, you can see them all on the screen. There's no need for me to really go into it too much. So another little feature the ogres have are the big names. Now, what these do is they can give you various buffs to your lord and their army, generally speaking, if they fill out a certain set of requirements. So at the moment, Scrag the Slaughterer has Gore Harvester, which increases the meat generation by 2 in his army. Now, you can see there are plenty of different options on screen, and these are different with each lord, so they're not all going to have an identical thing. I know Greasus has different ones, and I know other minor lords also have different ones as well. It's a neat little thing where if you keep an eye on it, you might get the odd little buff, which you might find useful, but other than that, it's nothing that's going to be, changing your game massively. Okay, so the last little bit of mechanics that the ogres have is something that is called contracts. Now, this is something that I feel is quite underwhelming and does need a little bit of a look at, because you'll probably end up forgetting about this mechanic rather quickly. Now, as you can see on the screen, every 10 turns, you will be offered a contract from 3 different options. They'll be asking you to attack someone, you get a treasury reward, and also increasing the diplomatic relations with those who have asked you to attack. Now, it can be useful if you are already planning on attacking, say, Marienburg, which I am planning on doing, so I'd probably take that just for the extra bit of gold, but, economy with the ogres isn't bad anyway, so yeah, these don't feel that amazing. Now, there is no time limit on completing the contract, so you can take one and just sit on it. The only thing is, you can only have one contract active. As soon as you accept another one, you forfeit the original one that you took. So bear that in mind, unless you're like me and you'll take one and then within 10 turns forgot that you had one in the first place and then be upset with yourself. Yeah. Nice one, Bear. I've not done that too many times already. I think that's enough. Let's crack on to some battle footage and the overview. So, an overview of the ogres. They are ridiculously overpowered, and very, very fun to play as. Huge focus on melee, but they do have some pretty damn devastating ranged, as well as some really fun monsters, which you're about to see. I mean, the models are pretty damn amazing. The campaign itself, the mechanics are very simple, there's nothing too overly complicated, and I kinda like that, if I'm honest. The only drawback is there are some bits that are a little bit lackluster, and I kind of feel like the Ogres were a bit of an afterthought. Kind of like they were just shoved in after Warhammer 2 and not really thought of it sort of much beyond that. Yeah, hopefully they get a little bit of love at some point in the future and we see some of the mechanics improved for them, because I feel like they could be one of the most fun factions in the game, especially just for how damn ridiculous they are. But as always, it's been absolutely wonderful having you guys here, and thank you for hanging out with me. Please do feel free to leave a like, comment, or subscribe. You know, all the stuff that every YouTuber ever asks you, because, you know, we're all machines. Honest, we are. I will leave all the relevant links below for my Twitch channel, for my Patreon, if you want to support me either on Twitch or, you know, or on YouTube or whatever, yeah, things, stuff. I'll even drop a link to Discord and my Twitter, if you feel like prodding me on there. Again, thank you so much, and I will catch you in the next one, my glorious gids.